Alright, so this recording is for August 24th. This is for our virtual physical science. What we're going to be looking at today, we're switching gears and we're looking at photosynthesis. Photosynthesis in prior classes we've known can kind of give us oxygen. We know that it involves plants. Generally, it can involve light or energy. Some of us have even been able to recall from past classes that we know that it produces specifically oxygen that comes from water. Some of us have been able to say we remember that light is what creates the energy. So there have been various different things that we have remembered. Overall, though, photosynthesis is primarily used by plants to create food, and it is here to help us as humans breathe. Those are two of the most important things that we have from photosynthesis. With photosynthesis, mostly everybody says, oh, it comes from plants. Well, it's not just in plants. Plants are classified as the flowers, trees, grass. However, plants can also be algae. Most people forget about algae. Algae is a underwater type plant. Even like seaweed. Seaweed is an underwater type plant. So we kind of classify them differently than plants. And we also see bacteria using photosynthesis as well. So these are our top 3 contenders for our process of photosynthesis. If we go back to our biology days, I'm going to draw out what is called a chloroplast. CHLOROPLAST. And the chloroplast is going to be our site of photosynthesis, meaning that a chloroplast is where photosynthesis occurs. Now, there are about 4 different things that we need to know about a chloroplast. One is that just the blank liquid that everything floats in is going to be called the stroma. That's where everything floats. So it's just a liquid. And I'll put down under here, liquid. We also have something called, I'm going to try to pronounce this correctly, a thylakoid membrane. A thylakoid membrane. And this is where, specifically within a chloroplast, this is where your light reactions occur. Now, if we have a stack of thylakoid membranes, that stack is going to be referred to as a granum. 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 Inside of a thylakoid membrane, I'm going to use a little bit darker green. So inside of our thylakoid membranes, we are going to have what is called a lumen. Lumen. Those are our lumens. All right, so just to kind of make our chloroplast look a little bit more detailed, I'm going to put a little spot over here where it can hold our CO2. And I'm going to draw a line because we know that our thylakoid membrane will be related to the carbon dioxide that comes inside. So that way it also gives our chloroplast a little bit more volume. So we have a lumen, which is inside our thylakoid membrane. A stack of thylakoid membranes is called a granum, and the liquid outside is called a stroma. If you've ever seen a rainbow before, and I promise that this is going somewhere, our general process for a rainbow is going to be red, and then it'll be an orangish color, and then we'll have a little bit of yellow. I'm going to use a highlighter for that. And then it goes to green and to blue. So this rainbow right here is going to be our light spectrum. I'm going to write this off up above it. So this is going to be our light spectrum. So our entire light spectrum is based off of colors that are reflected back. So for example, I see a blue pin right here. The color blue is being reflected back to my eyes. That means this pin is absorbing every color except for blue. So this pin is absorbing red, orange, yellow, green. All these colors are being absorbed, but blue is the color that is reflected back to my eyes. So I'm going to make a note off to the side so we can kind of recall that information later. So the color that you see was not absorbed, but reflected back to your eyes. So if I see a red chair in front of me, that means that red is being reflected and all my other colors of the spectrum have been absorbed. So if we kind of look at this, we can look outside, we can see the green leaves. And this means that the green leaves are reflecting the color green back to us, and they're absorbing every other color in the spectrum. If we recall specifically what is called chlorophyll, CHLORO, chlorophyll is specifically what makes leaves green. Chlorophyll is what absorbs our red and blue colors and reflects green. So red and blue are our colors that are absorbed. So that way green is what is reflected back, and that is what we see. Now, going through our entire process of photosynthesis, this may kind of go back a little bit further than what you like, but there is a chemical reaction. Our chemical reaction for photosynthesis is the following. We will have 6 molecules of water, H2O, plus 6 molecules of carbon dioxide, plus light, and that will produce our sugar, C6H12O6, and 6 molecules of oxygen. If we kind of look at this, water is generally either going to be in a liquid form, unless it's super hot out. Sometimes it can be absorbed in a gaseous state, but most of the time this will be a liquid. That's what the L will stand for. Carbon dioxide is generally a gas. That's what our G stands for. Light is going to be viewed as electrons. Sugar is generally in a solid form. That's what our S will stand for. and oxygen is produced as well. That is also a gas. And we're going to look at our process of photosynthesis now. There are generally two parts of photosynthesis. The light reactions, if we recall, they do take place within the thylakoid membranes of a chloroplast, and that the Calvin cycle will take place in the stroma of the chloroplast. That is kind of back from our biology days. We are really just going to be looking at photosynthesis. We're really just going to be looking at that light reaction. And I'm not exactly a great artist, so I'm going to try to simplify it. But in order to have photosynthesis, light must be given off. Light is a funny thing. If you recall, light can be viewed as a wavelength. And with wavelengths, we are generally giving off electrons, or giving off that negative charge. And this is introduced to what is called an electron transfer chain. So I'm going to write that off to the side. Electron transfer chain. And this electron transfer chain is found within our thylakoid membranes. It's going to be a series of proteins. So, found in thylakoid membrane. And it will have a series of proteins. Now, the proteins are important. As our electron is absorbed into our entire system, the electrons will go into the proteins and be transformed into energy. Our energy is going to be abbreviated as NADPH. And this is going to be energy that is given off in photosynthesis. Now, where there is a negative charge, there are also positive charges. So if you look at water, water can be separated into two different elements, hydrogen and oxygen. This is where our oxygen does come from. Our oxygen comes from the water. That leaves us with the hydrogen, because the hydrogen doesn't just disappear. The hydrogen is left there, and it behaves as a positive charge, which can be viewed as a proton. The protons get pumped inside of some more proteins, and it kind of gets distributed out into the lumen. So the protein goes into the lumen. Now, if we recall, let me flip the page back. The lumen is inside of our thylakoid membranes. So we have our lumen, which is now more positively charged because of our protons. Now, this process does start up into something different. It starts into a process of cellular respiration. RESPIR, respiration. Now, cellular respiration is what we're going to be looking at next class. For today, all we really need to do is we have our notes that we just took, and then we will be going into our classwork, and there is a web quest that we need to complete. A web quest is something that you just need the internet. And I don't mean searching for answers on Google. I mean, we have been given a web link right here that you need to go to, and it'll pull up a simulation. If you want to play with the simulation a little bit first to kind of get a chance to look at the graphs and to see what happens when you change like the pH level or the amount of energy. Remember, energy is our NADPH, so you can change the amount of energy. You can change the temperature. And if we recall, pH is from our acids and bases. 1 to 6 is generally acidic, 7 is neutral, and 8 to 14 is our basic. So we'll go ahead and let's say it's an acidic solution. And let's go ahead and click Run. And you will see that there are graphs that have been created. The graphs will be used. You will have to look at the graphs and put data into a chart. That's down here. Once you go ahead and you're confident in what you're doing, start reading the questions. And you can refer back to this video to help you. What is the equation for photosynthesis? We kind of gave you that in our notes. That is the 6 water molecules plus 6 carbon dioxide molecules plus light. That gives us our glucose and our oxygen. For questions 6 through 10, just follow the directions. It's not looking for an answer. It says, let's see what happens when the rate of photosynthesis under standard conditions, as it is set up for you to begin with. So number 6, it says click reset to restart the simulator. So I would go to my simulator. I would click reset. Number 7 says click run. So let's click run. So we see we got quite a bit here in our charts. 8 says using the bottom graph, so oxygen available, take the data you see and enter it into the data table on the next page in the 0 centimeter column. Okay, so we can look here. And of course we need to change the tab. So our first graph here is for ATP, then glucose, NADPH, and oxygen. So oxygen is our red graph. So this is for 0. 0 is 0. So we'll go back here and click 0. For our time for 5, 5 is, we can say that's not exactly in the middle, it's a little bit below, so we can use our best educated guess. So we can say 1.25. Remember, this is just a guess. Our next time is going to be 10. So at 10 here, we're going to have 4% relative oxygen. So I'll go back here and I'll put 4, and we will continue to fill out the chart. So first one is 0 centimeters. Next one is going to be 60 centimeters. So if you're changing the distance, that's right here, changing that distance. Here's 60. Here's 120. And you're just going to run this a couple of times and continue to put in the data. Answer the questions to the best of your ability. For question 11, where it says predict if the light 30 centimeters, if you put the light 30 centimeters away, what would your final number be? So that is your best guess. Different answers will have different reasonings. So as long as you can reason why you chose a number, you should be good. As we go down, your last problem is going to ask you about your claim evidence reasoning. Remember, our claim is our hypothesis. Our evidence has to support our claim. And the reasoning is putting everything together. If you want to make this very short and simple, all you need to do is type out a hypothesis, and explain using evidence why that hypothesis is correct. And that can be about a paragraph. If you have any questions, please let me know. But this web quest is all we're going to be working on today. Whatever you don't finish during class time, that will become homework.